Good morning, good evening, wherever you may be in the vastness of space. I'm Rocken Larry Locken with Pleiadian Express Productions, bringing you Pleiadian Talk. Today we have on our show Nicole Santoro, who is a cannabis activist, and we're going to talk a little bit about GMOs and marijuana and how it's affecting the drug and altering the chemical strain of it, as well as the government's involvement. Nicole, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have you.
Hi, thanks for having me, Larry.
Yeah, no problem at all. So I know that we had talked a little bit about this, and this is quite the story. I know GMOs have really made quite the headway, but I don't think enough people are talking about the fact that the marijuana is being poisoned with it. And I think, like you were saying in the pre-interview, it ties into the mass production of it. And if you could go into a little bit about that, that would be great.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because, I mean, you have to ask, when the government is pushing something, you have to ask why. I mean, and cannabis has gone totally mainstream in the last, maybe let's say in the last year, it's gone totally mainstream. Like Sanjay Gupta came out on CNN and started doing documentaries about cannabis, and there's been all kinds of hype around the plant. So you have to ask, well, what's their agenda really? Like, what's driving this whole legalization movement? I mean, it's passing in, like, you know, more than half of the states in the United States are now medical states. I mean, it's a sweeping movement. And not to say that that's solely the government behind it, but obviously the government is getting involved in it. So
Right, and you think that it's more than just that they're willing to, you know, with this whole war on drugs bullshit that's been going on, you think it's more than just that they're willing to concede marijuana. I'm starting to think so too. So it's got to
so
be
much
money.
more than that. It's so much more than that. Well, yeah, well, they want to control it, and then it goes so deep. It's incredible. But I want you to share with everybody what the Pleiadians said to you, because I think that's important.
Yeah, I was trying not to take the focus off of what you had to say so much, but I'll just go through that real quick. About 2 years ago, in 2012, I was kind of just laying there one night thinking about it, and I was thinking about, okay, well, marijuana, I was thinking about, what is the answer really? Is it really deadening my consciousness, or is it awakening it? And then I was thinking, well, some of the marijuana out there that you may use, or you know, a person may smoke, it's not that laughy, giggly feeling like one might be used to in days past. It makes you feel like you want to crawl to your body. And this ringing pulse started coming into my ear, and then through consciousness through them, while looking at one of their stars in the sky, it came to me that, okay, well, the Pleiadians seeded marijuana here for our upliftment, for medical reasons, for ceremonial reasons, and just for people to have a good time and laugh with each other. But what ended up happening in the late 70s or so, Carter, then followed by Reagan, they started spraying all these small growers patches all over the country with paraquat and different poisons. And so when you smoke that non-organic weed like that, you feel like you want to crawl out of your body. And I really noticed it because when the dispensaries started coming out, when it was legal here in Oregon, I noticed a lot of people talking about, you know, if it wasn't organic, they'd feel like they wanted to just crawl out of their body. There was none of that laughy feeling. And then it wasn't a week later, I was on YouTube going through my Pleiadian channelings that people post and stuff, and I sure wish to this day I could find it, because the channeling said the exact same thing that came to my mind that week before, the exact same thing. They had seeded it here for our upliftment, you know, and it was for our enjoyment and for ceremonial reasons.
Right, but it was actually, it's also actually, not only is it for our enjoyment, but it's a solution to a lot of our problems, and nearly like all of our problems, actually. I mean, if you look at the cousin plant of cannabis, which is what I really would like to talk about, is hemp, because it's an incredible industrial crop. It can free us from oil. I mean, that's huge. Are you kidding me? Like,
I know, right away, and cure world hunger, make better clothes than any material we use, run vehicles more essentially and really, or efficiently, and really, I've even
you can make vehicles out of it. You can make all your personal care products out of it. You can, you know, you can make like soaps, shampoos, clothing, paper. You can make more paper out of hemp than you can with the same amount of trees, and it takes less time to
Yeah,
hemp. And hemp is, and this is what is really scary about what they're doing with it, with the GMOs, is that hemp doesn't need pesticides. It doesn't. It's not susceptible to disease. It's not susceptible to pests. It's a super plant. And if you screw with the genetics of this plant, and also hemp replenishes the soil that it's grown in. But if you're using destructive agriculture, like, you know, rototilling every season, or using all these chemicals or whatever it is, then I mean, I have to wonder, like, is that going to be the downfall of the hemp plant? Like, will it not be that super crop that can save us if they genetically engineer it?
I would think not. I would think that you basically have a whole nother chemical strain of a plant at that point. I mean, you don't even, yeah, I wouldn't think so, no. And of course, the bottom line for them is money and control. And yeah, I think the proof is in the pudding. And I agree with you. For whatever reason it's being done, it's wrong. And it's just destructive all the way around to a super hybrid plant that can do anything. And you mentioned paper, and I've even heard the paper that it makes is even better quality than normal paper. So
that's right. It's so tough. Like, if you've ever seen hemp paper, it's amazing. The Constitution was written on hemp paper, actually.
very true, very true. And I don't think people touch on that enough. You hear people mention that time to time, and it's kind of
Yeah,
just like a oh, ha ha.
George Washington and Thomas Jefferson grew hemp.
Mm-hmm. No, it's true. It's very true. And you know what? People need to get away from the thought of, okay, well, we're just talking about it to talk about, oh, getting stoned, oh, we want, we want to use it for that or whatever. But no, I mean, forget about that for a minute. You're right. There's so many great uses for it that you don't even need to go there with the medicinal use.
Yeah, no, and that's what I think is really, really important for people to understand. And I'm also very suspicious about this whole farm bill thing. You know how in the farm bill they basically legalized, or allowed for the production of industrial hemp.
Yeah, it makes you wonder why they would do that all of a sudden. And I mean,
And part of me thinks it's because people are really, like, there is more of an awareness now, and people are, like, starting to talk about these things. But at the same time, then when you look at, like, well, it is being talked about in the mainstream media, which means they want people talking about it. So
yeah, and why do they want them to talk about it? That's a good point. I think people need to
well,
ask the question why.
yeah, I think they want to, like, well, the whole thing is, like, it's about ownership and control. I mean, they own us, and they want to own, this plant, and they want to make it theirs, and, like, well, that's what they do with everything in this world. Everything is made into poison. I mean, the cars we drive turn the air into a poisonous exhaust, and the chemicals we use are poison, the food we eat. And then they just want to take this magnificent plant and turn it into, like, something so dirty.
Yeah, like they do with everything else until they can control it and completely manipulate it. It's like with any new technology that gets introduced, it's always 50 to 100 years late because they've
Yeah,
got
and the
to.
Pleiadians say that technology is humanity's double-edged sword.
Oh, big time, big time. I mean, vehicles. I mean, we should have went to hovercrafts instead of vehicles, and that suck
Yeah,
up
well,
all the
Tesla,
oil.
Tesla technology, I mean, 100 years ago, dude.
Yeah, I know,
We
I
could have
know.
had
That's the
this.
thing. Yeah, it's true. It's true, and
I
it's
know,
like,
it feels like we're, like, stuck in, like, this weird sci-fi past
oh yeah, I
where we're, like,
know.
still using oil cars and all, it's very surreal.
I mean, really, when you think about it, we had the technology to go away from that before World War II, even. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
it's nuts. It really is crazy. I mean, but it's controlled by money and big pharma and big
Yeah,
companies,
well,
and
the
until they can.
interesting thing is that cannabis was only outlawed not very long ago.
Not really, no.
In the early 1900s is when they made it illegal because of big oil, cotton, the paper industry, this whole web of the corporate elite.
when the Industrial Revolution really started to take a stranglehold, it really became illegal. And also, too, you wonder sometimes, too, if with that, if it was a racial issue with marijuana, too. I've heard that was another reason they figured, well, we can upset the Hispanic population by making that illegal, but we won't really go there with alcohol. I mean, they tried that for a while, but you wonder how much of a, most white people controlled the corporations then. So I kind of wonder, okay,
well, I
well,
mean, I don't think it's so much of a race issue as just the same group who has been controlling us for hundreds of thousands of years, pushing their agenda and pushing their agenda and pushing their agenda. It's all the same people who own all these corporations, and they all work together.
that's true. I mean, Coke and Pepsi work hand in hand. We know that, and they don't want anybody else getting in on the market. And yeah, it's really great, and I'm glad that you're on the show to bring a little bit of awareness to that, because you've had the chance to really study and get into all this and be passionate about it. And it's not something I've thought about really in a lot of years, because I kind of just figured, okay, well, gee, it's the day's coming, it's going to be legal and all that. But then hence, I think maybe our troubles are just beginning if we don't really pay attention to how it's being legalized and used.
Definitely, we need to get involved, and we need to grow our own, and we need to really, what people need to push instead of legalization is repealing all cannabis laws, like repealing all laws against cannabis and hemp, because there should be no law against nature. How can you
No.
make nature illegal?
Yeah, I don't understand.
Like you said, this is a gift. This plant is a gift from the heavens. It's a absolutely magnificent plant. If you've ever seen one,
Oh yeah,
they're amazing.
they're beautiful just to look at even.
They are. They're beautiful, and wow. The level of consciousness of that plant is, you can tell it's extraterrestrial.
You can definitely tell. That's a good point. Just the way it's shaped and the way it's so different. Yeah, that's a good point. It's definitely extraterrestrial. Not that everything isn't, but that really was a special gift at a point in time to us. And yeah, I think all laws should be repealed.
It's a solution to all our problems. And one other thing I wanted to talk about in terms of the cannabis oil, or the cannabis, is the actual cannabis oil. A man named Rick Simpson rediscovered the cure for cancer and other diseases in the cannabis oil, which is you basically extract all of the essential parts of the plant, all the cannabinoids and all the beneficial components of the plant into a very concentrated oil. And that is, you take it orally, or you can do it topically if you have like a melanoma or a skin cancer. But it effectively, in high doses, it does cure diseases.
Yeah, wow. Boy,
Including cancer and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, and they sure don't want us to know it, do they? I mean, they've really done a good job with this disinformation over the last century with it.
It's just brainwashing. I mean, reefer madness. I mean, come on.
I was just thinking of reefer madness. I know. You know what's so funny too about reefer madness is the weed back then. Yeah, the only thing it would have done, you might have had to go to the hospital with a migraine so bad from smoking enough of it. I mean, yeah. I mean, I haven't really watched that movie in a long time, but I think there was a scene where some guy flipped out and jumped out a window, or he was going to try to rape somebody. I don't know, but my God, I mean,
exactly. Like it makes black men rape white women. That was the programming.
Good Lord Almighty!
It's going to make you go crazy. That was the programming. Or it's dangerous. It's the most benign thing. No one has ever died from it.
No.
Not one person.
No, and like I said, I just can't imagine back then that it was even really strong enough in the
mainstream. It's horrible. It's horrible that you've turned it into a drug. Yeah. It's not a drug. It's a plant. It's an herb. If you ever grow it, you'll find that out. You're like, oh, this is just a plant.
It's just a plant. It's not going to get you stoned or intoxicated by looking at it, or I mean, yeah, it's really crazy. And I don't know. It's frustrated me for so long that, I've kind of lost my passion with it. That's why it's good to talk to somebody like you who's still real passionate about it, because I got so sick of it for years being stigmatized, and man, it just beats you down after a while.
You know what? With this rise of it in the mainstream media? Well, because there's a health crisis right now. I mean, 50% of people are getting cancer. Half of people are getting cancer. I mean, if that's not an epidemic, I don't know what is.
I couldn't tell you. That is definitely an epidemic, and it seems like yet people still are like, okay, well, it's not me, it's not my family, it's somebody next door. But basically, we're at the point now where it is your family. Everybody's got somebody affected by cancer now,
I
and if
know,
they
and
don't,
that's
they
why,
seem.
I think this information is starting to pick up because it's needed. I mean, humanity is like calling for this. Really, it is. It's just it doesn't. I mean, people don't really want to accept it because of what the programming is, and it makes them uncomfortable, and then there's that sense of cognitive dissonance. But if you just really take an objective look, I mean, if nobody ever knew about cannabis and somebody said, oh, we found this plant that was used in ancient times for medicine and textiles and all these different things, I mean, people would be like, oh, well, we should just use that. Let's use it.
Yeah.
Why are we not using it? But because there's all this like mental
Programming.
yeah, people just can't really they reject it.
So it's twofold. So not only what you're saying, not only is it the government and all their mass propaganda over the century, but it's also so it's infused into people's minds that, yeah, okay, well, it's this or that. It's going to lead to harder drugs. I'm going to smoke a joint, and then I'll start
Well, this
smoking
has been
crack a
the
week later.
belief, right? This has been the belief over the generations. I mean, leading up to now, since it was illegalized and like we were talking about reefer madness and all this stuff. So it's been this belief through the generations. So it's actually like in our DNA at this point, and now we have to literally break through that pattern of thinking.
That's a great point. It is really infused into our DNA now, and wow, it just, yeah, I mean, because they even had it listed as a hallucinogen at first. I mean, a hallucinogen, I was looking at an early 1960s encyclopedia my stepmom had years ago, and it listed as a hallucinogenic, and my dad was like, you'd be lucky to even get stoned off the stuff back then. I mean, I'm just saying that that's just the madness of it, exactly. It's crazy.
I know. I mean, everyone thinks, oh, like even people my age. I'm 21, and people still think, oh, it's bad for you, like, and they like drink alcohol instead, and it's like, no,
I
that's so
know.
backwards. It's completely backwards.
Tell me, are you serious? There's people still your age that think that way? Really?
Oh
I mean,
yeah.
I'm sarcastic. I'm being like, man, so really, there's still that ignorance out there. I
Yeah,
mean,
but that's why it's good to have conversations like these, and that's why the legalization is pretty cool because it's really changing people's mindset towards it.
yeah, it's just a
Because
shame we
they're
have to
saying,
go
oh,
that.
well, it's legal, so now the government says it's okay, so I guess maybe it's not
Oh,
that
so
bad or
just
something.
okay. Yeah, okay. The government, yeah, it's okay to jump off a bridge now, according to the government. Yeah, I know.
Right,
It's
I know.
it starts to be right for the wrong reasons. I mean, they don't get the complexity of it, and every issue has a complexity. And well, the government says it's okay now, but then gee, you got that battle to fight with those people. That okay, well, the government's mass growing it now. With what are they putting in it? Like they put in all the food that they grow in farms, and I mean, it never ends, and people need to quit just looking at the issue. They need to look
Yeah,
at
well,
all the
a bunch
undertones.
of the Monsanto employees are also in the government, in the EPA, in the FDA, all these letter name groups.
Yeah,
But yeah,
that,
it's totally like uh, enmeshed together. I mean, Monsanto is the government, pretty much.
they really are. Well, yeah, they really are. And all those three-letter group names, like you mentioned, can you say special interest? I mean, yeah, it's all about money and grants, and even they get put in a position where they have to, go along to get along, and it really is just a head game from some psychopaths, and really, it sucks. Who is
Yeah,
anybody
but
to
you know
tell
what? It's
anybody
people,
anything?
though. It's people. Like, the government is made
It
of
is.
people. And, like,
Really is.
people need to be held accountable. And people need to really, like, do what's right. instead of doing, I mean, money, I mean, I think people will quickly see, especially these ones in the government, and the world that they're creating, and that, you know, we don't have much time left in this whole thing. I mean, how long?
No,
I
and
mean, we've already hit peak oil. I mean,
oh yeah,
the time is
we can't
running
drill
out for
much.
this civilization. Sorry to say,
Yeah, I
but
know. We can't drill much further. I know it is, and really, we're to bitch about the government is really a moot point because it really is us. And even if it was all some controllers doing it, well, shame on us for letting it happen. You know what I mean?
exactly, we have to take responsibility, and we need to get involved here. We live here.
Yeah, let's take care of the goddamn planet, people. I mean, really, we do. And people just need to be a little bit more passionate about it. And I'm not even saying, look, go out on the streets with a sign, protest. I mean, that can be done too. Just talking about it like we are. And if people would just talk about it more, the consciousness would raise, you know?
Definitely. Yeah.
It doesn't going out and starting a bloody revolution. I mean, those days are kind of gone. But if people would just calm down and realize they don't have to jeopardize their job to talk about it or to do something, they can just talk about it in groups. And then, you know,
And well,
one person.
everyone's afraid.
I know everyone's so scared because they hear activism. They heard the word activist and they think, okay, well, God, I'm going to have to go out and really start some trouble and, you know, start a war or whatever.
It's just all this subliminal programming, honestly, like from movies and what they're saying on the television. Like, they're telling people, like, you are insane if you believe in conspiracy theories. I say that, I mean, it's not a theory.
Yeah, well,
there is a real conspiracy. Sorry, I mean, not sorry, but there's a real conspiracy. It's not a theory. And to say that is to dismiss it. And they're campaigning like against critical thinking at this point, and they're scaring people by doing it because they're saying, "Oh, you're crazy." Like, no, you know, like they're just scaring people out of this information because they know that once people delve into it, they'll see.
They do realize that, and they're just trying to freak people out, and it's like with the Illuminati symbols. Okay, they're there, and they know people
like
know
this
they're
whole
there.
this whole thing with this whole thing with Edward Snowden and the NSA and, you know, him coming. I think he's just telling everybody. I think he has openly said he is still working with the NSA. So take that for what it's worth. And also,
I do.
and also, I think it's really like it's making people so paranoid. They're like, oh, the government is listening to this conversation right now. Oh, I can't say that on the phone. The government's listening. Like, that is total insanity to live your life like that. That is insanity.
Yeah, because keep in mind that of course they do have that technology, but the thing about it is they're not.
How could they be watching and listening to every single conversation going? I mean, there's millions of people in America. They don't have millions of employees.
But they want you hung up on that one issue, though. They don't want you to see how bad and fucked up it really is. They want you hung up on, oh, God, they can listen to me. I better not say nothing. I better not have another thought. I better not think anything.
It's exactly like Nazi Germany. Like, you could get the police called on you for having un-German thoughts.
Oh, imagine that. That's kind of scary. Yeah, it is, and they want you so paranoid. And
like 1984, you know, like the thought police. I mean, George Orwell, like, that wasn't a fiction book. He was an insider.
He was totally right. I mean, he was totally right of the innate possibility that we were going to go down that road, and even in the late 70s.
He knew we were going down it. He knew we were going down it.
And there was all these warnings, too, even after that. Even in the 70s with all these futuristic, low-budget movies, they kind of showed a corporate society.
Well, you know
like
what,
that.
Larry? I mean, it's like when they show all these kinds of things, and now a lot of what it is in the movies, it's transhumanism, merging man with machine, like Transformers and Iron Man, all these kinds of things. And they get the kids all into it, too. And
yeah, I know it's cool, but then people kind
of also aliens. There's like a big alien theme, like projecting they're projecting into people's consciousness, and just the normal violence and all that.
The normal shit they've done, same old story, a different twist on it. But yeah,
what it does is and end of the world type stuff, and like apocalyptic scenarios, and And because they're trying to replay the book of Revelations. And they're also, and they want, and when they show people these movies, and it really influences their consciousness, especially because things like TV, which this is I learned from Barbara Marciniak's book, it puts you in a delta brainwave state, which is basically, it's hypnosis. It's a deep sleep state.
Boy, I sure realize it too, since I quit watching 3 years ago and I used to be a couch potato. You don't realize it too when you're under that spell. And then you realize it once you go away from it, and then you start to try to watch it again, and I just can't even handle the vibrations of
No,
television being
I
on,
can't
especially
either. I don't like to be around it.
you. So if I have to see some mainstream news or hear it, I literally will start like in 2 minutes going through the equivalent of like a drug withdrawal because I'm like, oh, I can't handle it. You
Well,
know,
it
and
is a
that's not
drug.
an
It
exaggeration.
is a drug.
Yeah, it makes me feel creepy to even hear it now, though, and I can see right through it, and I always could. I always thought it was bullshit, but then it's one thing to think it, but then once you're actually full of the feeling of knowing it, it's a whole nother thing.
There are so many clips on YouTube you can look up of the news anchors actually shape-shifting
Yeah, and it's
on camera.
true, and exactly, and it happens too, and that's another thing, and they're willing to, that's on YouTube, and then they think, okay, well, people will see that and think, oh, it's just a joke or a hoax, and so they're even cool with putting out a little bit of the truth that the government is, just to get you at that first level and keep you scared. They don't want you seeing just how fucked up it is, like I was saying.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, it's the same thing with all the Illuminati symbols on the dollar bill and all that shit. They want you to see all that, and then they want you to be scared by it, but not think anything more of it. And then, maybe even young kids could think it's kind of cool, to
I know
see those symbols.
I see kids who make like that pyramid sign that Jay-Z makes, and
Yeah.
they like wear it on their clothes and stuff like that. It's really.
Really, really, I was wondering if that was going to start happening. See, I didn't know that because I'm out of the loop, but I'm glad that you're here to tell us that. So that's already going on then. I figured that was coming down the pike.
Yeah, that's
Huh.
happening. And
Wow, that's
yeah, because all these kids who are into drugs and drinking and partying, this whole EDM thing, these like festivals, like it's a breeding ground for astral possession.
Boy, that's right, and it keeps them locked into that lower dense level like that. They don't want them out of that matrix.
Mhm. Exactly.
Wow. Wow, this is really enlightening to hear on a Saturday morning. I'm kind of like, I'm hopeful, but at the same time, we've still got a lot of work to do, with this. And to
Yeah, we
educate
really
people.
do. That's why all this new age crap about, oh, just be positive and don't like focus on the
Oh,
dark
yeah.
because then you'll give power to it. It's like, no, like you need to look at it and
And acknowledge it's there.
acknowledge it
Yeah.
and process it and integrate it and deal with it. We've got ourselves like a big problem on our hands, and we need, not that it's too much for us to handle. At this point with Fukushima, it is a big job, but the good news is that we do have our benevolent extraterrestrial friends who are pretty much like waiting for us to ask them for help
Really,
because
they
they
are
can't
as a
infringe.
collective. Yep.
What?
Yeah, as a collective, they really are. And like you were going to say, that they can't infringe on our free will. But yeah, no, go ahead. It's a good point.
Yeah, so they would help us, if we really decided to turn it around and start helping ourselves and start working together. But but we need to take steps in the right direction, is all I'm saying. And we need to acknowledge the problem on our hands and start to deal with it and really, heal this giant gaping wound.
Yeah, I would say so. And it's time that people really start to really pay attention to it. If nothing else, just to be consciously aware of it and mention it to somebody else. I mean, it really.
Yeah. Spread the information as much as you can. Well, people say, "Oh, well, what can I do? I'm just little old me."
Oh, poor me. Yes. Well, you know what? We're
Um,
not asking.
well, you're only one person, but you're one person. You're somebody. You can do something. Tell people about it. Start working on yourself. Become a better person. Stop eating
Exactly.
meat. You know, stop being a part of the problem. Stop falling
Yeah, be
into
a
the traps that the government and the powers that be have set for you.
And if one person does that, on average, I would think that they could at least affect 5 people around them to
So
see
many
part of
more
that and
though.
maybe.
So many more. It's amazing. You know how many people you can really reach, and just in your everyday life, just just being your true self and being kind and giving somebody a smile, um, or
That's
whatever it
it, really.
is.
Yeah, even just smiling at somebody walking through the store, you have no idea the power you have. You might make their crappy day better just by acknowledging them, just a look, a smile, a friendly
You
look
will.
even,
You definitely will.
we project that kind of energy. We have that kind of energy within us, especially the younger generations, the people that are, say, even under 50, 40, especially your generation, just that energy that you can give off just by smiling and, it just, even by walking by a
Yeah, the
person,
crystal children.
totally, just
Very
even by
powerful.
walking by one.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't even need one of them to smile at you. You can just walk by them and get that energy. It's crazy.
Totally,
And
exactly.
you're, wow, what happened? But really, it does. It works, and that contact might save somebody's day or even a life in a situation. You just don't know.
Everything you do affects the world.
It does. And when you break it down like this, you really see it. I mean, it's one thing to sit there and go, oh, well, everything you do affects the world, but it really does, because think about all the vibrations you send out there to the universe with everything you do.
Exactly.
And
You're
yeah,
always
it's
broadcasting your frequency.
always. And that's what, the collective needs to rise in that awakening. And I mean, that goes along with, too, asking the ETs to come in and help us out. And they don't want to do it for us because they don't want to be worshipped like gods. We've
But
made
they're
that
happy to
mistake
help.
before.
They're happy to help.
Totally, totally, totally. And they don't want to be worshipped. They
They
don't
would be
they don't want to.
thrilled. They would be thrilled to help. But
At
we
the
have
same
to
time,
we have to do it ourselves first. We have to at least, you know.
make an effort to pick it up. Maybe they could bring the last 10% of it home for us, but we really need to get there and do it for ourselves. Basically, we need to be at the point where, if they're going to help a little bit, we need to be at the point where where it's more of a friendly thing. It's not like we need
Well, I
absolutely
mean,
drop
look,
dead.
they have helped us in giving us, like we were talking earlier, the cannabis plant and the hemp plant. It's a gift. It is help. It is a solution. So if we're not, if we're not going to accept this solution because it is a solution, a viable one, then there's no chance of them coming in and helping us, because we need to accept and utilize the solutions and technology that we already. I mean, Tesla. I mean, that was definitely. I'm sure the Pleiadians or whoever had a hand in that. Um,
Totally, totally.
but yeah,
Yeah,
we have solutions here, and we got to start utilizing them and working together.
yeah,
Um,
like years ago. No, like today. I
no
mean, I think
kidding.
I know it could have.
Before I even incarnated.
Way before you even incarnated. We should have had the damn internet by the 1970s and home computers by the 50s. I mean, it really is disgusting when you go back and think about it. But I try not to stay in that mindset anymore, because I spent a lot of years pissed off and wondering why I
Yeah.
just couldn't get it. But now I get it, and so I guess now we just need to move forward with it and go for that. And for speaking of free will, I mean, we could get caught up in talking about the drug part of it, but really, in my opinion, other countries have went to decriminalizing most drugs, and they find that in about 2 years they have about 10% of the problem that we do, and in a generation they probably won't have one at all. And so you can't be the pleasure police continuously. We always want to we are our brother or our sister's keeper, and try to monitor what they do, monitor what they take, and think we know what's best for them. But that's beside the point. And with the weed, it's more than just the effect of it. Like you said, forget about all that. Let's look at all the great stuff it can do, the clothes, the food, the paper, the fuel, and all more efficiently than anything that we're using now in every way.
And in fact, it helps the earth, because actually, in terms of this Fukushima situation, Dr. Masaru Emoto actually said to plant hemp near the area of Fukushima because it helps to raise the vibration of the land. And so,
Yeah.
and as you may or may not already know, the Fukushima radiation is sweeping across the whole northern hemisphere. So to plant hemp at this time, it's vital to our
Almost,
survival.
you know, and this may be a lesson. What if it comes down to the point where, yeah, it wouldn't that be something? I mean, if we really need to start mass growing this to save ourselves, you know,
Well,
this
it may come to that, and in fact, it is coming to that.
Yeah, you might as well actually say, for all intents and purposes, it has come to that. And you know, you speak of growing it, even in Japan, it might save their countryside. It may actually save their land, because the way it's looking, if they don't do something, I mean, it's going to affect the whole world.
Well,
Their country will sink.
they're not being accepted by other countries now, like the Japanese people. They can't leave Japan.
They're in a bad situation. But that's,
Yeah,
I know that's
it's not. That's the thing that people need to understand too, is that it's not just a Japanese problem. It's a problem for the whole world.
for the whole planet, the whole galaxy, because it also sends vibrations off of this planet into the multiverse. And yeah, it's people better wake up and get rid of this us against them mentality. It's all oneness. It really is. That's not just some bullshit cliche. It's true, because as one goes, we all go. And it's not this us against them, Russia against China, U.S. against Russia. I mean, that's all.
They're all Freemasons anyway.
They really are. All at the top of running all this stuff is all, you know, 20 or so families that run the world secretly. But other than that, it's us. The people of these countries are good people. Of all the, you know, you've got good and bad and everything. The whole Cold War was a goddamn ruse. I mean, why? Who knows what we were doing? I mean, but you know, I've talked to Soviet people that live there now since I've gotten older, and I'm like, well, what were they, you know, because I grew up during the Cold War. I'm like, well, what were they telling you guys? Well, they were telling them the same thing we were telling us, that they were the big bad, we were the big bad wolf, like we were being told they were the big bad wolf. And you know, meanwhile, they were running an oligopoly.
Divide and conquer.
Yeah. I know, you know, doom and gloom, but
yeah, but we have the opportunity to move past all of this and move forward and start utilizing our solutions and start creating a better future for us. Because I don't like when older people say, "Oh, well, it's not my problem. I'm going to be dead." It's like, no, it is your problem. It's a problem now, not in 50 years. It's a problem now.
Yeah, I know. I even ran into that when I talk about with older starseeds. I talk about, well, this awakening process, you know, it's possible this could take into the mid-20s to, maybe not that long, but in the mid-20s to come to fruition. Oh no, oh God, oh, I'll be dead by then. I won't see it. I'll be. And it's just, when I hear that, I think, I don't know. I don't even want to comment. All I feel is like, I feel like the conversation's lost when I hear that. Although I know I need to keep going for the cause, but when I talk to somebody and they say that, I just feel like, fuck.
Yeah, well, it's hard to it's almost like in these times it's very hard to see the future, because so much is always changing, and in a way you can feel like, oh, there's no future, I'm gonna be dead. Like, no, you're gonna be alive.
Yeah, you're gonna be alive, but as you wish. If you would really like that future, I guess you could go down that road if you wanted to. But
yeah, well, a lot of people are set for their own destruction right now, don't get me wrong, but and a lot of people will die. I mean, with this radiation, it's really serious, you know. I mean, it's already there's already thyroid problems developing in infants in California, along the coast of California. So, I mean, it's a real tangible threat. And also, going back to the GMOs, that's a real tangible threat to the human genome.
Oh, bad. Yeah, where we'll end up turning into the Greys or something like that. But it really is scary, because, you know, you talk about those children already being born, and my fear is that if we don't start paying attention to it, okay, they're going to become teenagers and young adolescents with all these issues, and then it's like, okay, well,
they already are. I mean, the rates of autism have skyrocketed because of these vaccines, and then all the pills and everything.
These people, you get these people like, oh, well, who knew? Well, we knew, you know. Oh, who knew? I mean, well, we knew, you know, we knew this, and we know it now, and, you know, all we have is today is to move forward and go from here, and let's try to, like, not let it go any further, you know, and not have the mentality, well, it's already fucked, let's just whatever. No, we can still turn this thing around, but there's still some long days ahead, even if we do, you know, and people need to understand that. The sooner the better. I mean,
yeah, it's time to wake up fast, and it's a rude awakening, because you're waking up into a very dark reality. But I mean, I think it's better to at least know the truth, so then you can live your life knowing that, than to just like hide in fear and darkness and not knowing.
I agree with you. I agree with you too. And I think like for people like you and me though, it's like we've probably always felt that way. And so it's hard to judge somebody who's having
No,
that
no, no.
fear.
I
But
don't have any judgments. I just say it. You know, if you are afraid to look at the truth, I would say from knowing the truth, it is definitely puts you in a better position of empowerment and success
no,
in your life. Because
no, I meant judging.
you have no if you have no knowledge, you have no power.
You have no knowledge. Yeah, and you have no awareness or consciousness. You have no power. No, I didn't mean you were judging. I meant like you know, growing up in the time I did, I kind of judge people like that a little bit, or used to. Like, okay, well, why don't you wake up? Why don't you see this? Why don't you? And then I have to realize that maybe it wasn't their fault. Maybe it was frequency mind control. Maybe it was because they weren't a star seed. But really, it's irrelevant at this point. And people just need to wake up and understand, hey, this is the fucking reality we're dealing with, you know?
Yeah,
I mean, it
and you
just
know what? What I've realized through this whole process is that it's not really for you to like shake anybody awake. You know what I mean? You can't
right.
shake anybody awake. Everybody has to come to it in their own time and in their own way. And really the best thing to do, what you want to do when you first wake up is tell everybody you know.
I know. I went
But
through that. It cost me a marriage. It cost
but
me some
it
friends.
it's
Yeah.
wise to work on yourself, study, gather knowledge, gather information so you can actually know what the hell you're talking about.
Very
And
true. And go off.
and
Yeah,
actually
exactly.
becoming from a place of spiritual awareness so that you can then actually truly help others instead of just judging them for being exactly like you were 2 months ago or something.
Yeah, exactly. And sounding belittling and like you're preaching. I know. Because that's how it would come across, and it has before I
The
made.
only way we're going to get this done is through love and compassion and understanding, not judgment and hate and fear.
Because eventually those people will come to you with questions, you know, and it's
Oh
our.
yeah, I mean you're a living example. You know, your beingness is an example to them, and your light guides them. No matter if they, you know, consciously reject the information or not, it still goes in there, and it's a splinter in their minds, like in the Matrix.
Exactly. And if you just lead by example is the way to go, whereas if you belittle them and judge, all you're doing is messing with their growth path.
Definitely.
Yeah,
Well,
I
Larry, it's been
agree.
really awesome
It
talking with
has been really awesome, and yeah, and hopefully we can do this again. And I really appreciate you coming on and talking with me about this and kind of getting me re-energized about this subject. And thank you very much. And we've still got a lot of work to do, but consciousness is power. So anyway, Nicole, thank you very much, sweetie, for being on the show. I appreciate it.
you. Definitely. Thanks for having me on. It was a pleasure.